Another thing to think about is diversification. And remember, we're skipping the portfolio model calculations in the textbook. So diversification, and it's still important to understand the general concept, but not how to calculate the portfolio model. If you have multiple enterprises, chances are that not everything's going to be bad at the same time. So your risk should be lower overall. If you have enterprises that are negatively related to each other, one's doing good while another one's doing bad, that's going to have the most risk reduction. Unrelated enterprises also reduced risk because if they're unrelated, again, chances are they're not going to be all bad at the same time. So this is the concept behind mutual funds. You spread your money out over a lot more stocks, and because you do that, you can get the same expected return with a lower risk. In agriculture, diversification is good and can lower risks. However, you've got to really think about it against things like more things to manage. If I have more enterprises, I have more things that I have to manage at the same time. So that's going to spread my time and my assets over more things, and it may make them thinner. For example, my parents used to have irrigated potatoes when I was growing up for a while, and dry land, grain, and cattle. And so in the fall of the year, at the same time the potatoes were ready to harvest, the dry land wheat was still being harvested, and they were trying to gather up the cattle. And so it put everything during a certain time of year where they didn't have enough resources to go around to do all those simultaneously. So they ended up running out their irrigated ground and then just focusing on the cattle and the dry land. Another thing to think about is there's only so many options for crops and livestock. You know, if you think about the stock market, there's thousands of different stocks that you could diversify across. But for agriculture, there's only so many crops that are going to grow in your region, in your area, and so many different types of livestock you can do. Another thing to think about is economies of scale. Economies of scale are where you get gains from being bigger. For example, we have to buy a $100,000 tractor and well, say a grain combine is going to be $250,000. So $250,000 for a grain combine. It's going to be $250,000 no matter how many acres of grain you cut. And so if you diversify, so you only have 100 acres of wheat, that's not enough acres to spread that $250,000 combine across. And so it doesn't make sense to diversify in that way. However, it could be that, so it may be because of economies of scale and just needing to be big enough in certain enterprises to spread that cost of specialized equipment across it, that really it doesn't make economic sense to diversify because of the economies of scale. So those are, you know, just we've kind of talked about what risks are, what they might mean for your business, how to adapt to them. And another way to think about risk is to really kind of play what if questions and say, what if this happens, so that you can understand how those changes will affect your bottom line. Good changes, bad changes. Understand what you could expect from things that might happen, and then come up with ideas to deal with them or to make things better. It's way, way, way easier to lose money on paper than in real life. So the more you can think about it on paper and really get an understanding of what has to happen and what you can do, the better it is going to be in real life.